Welcome to today's explainer. The number clears on a Monday morning, and you are sitting at your kitchen table in a shirt you've had since 2019 and a cup of coffee you made yourself because the one down the street is $4 and you never quite got comfortable with that math. You open the app. You look at the balance. $100,000. You close the app. You open it again. Same number. You sit there for a moment waiting for something to happen. Some signal. Some shift in the air around you. The kitchen doesn't change. The street outside doesn't change. Your phone doesn't ring with anyone who somehow knows. You put the phone face down on the table and finish your coffee standing at the sink, looking out at the parking lot of the building across the street, and the world continues being completely, absolutely ordinary. That is the first thing nobody tells you about saving $100,000. The world does not acknowledge it. Not even a little. You didn't start with a plan. You started with a feeling. The feeling showed up the first time you got a real paycheck. Not the part-time ones from college. Not the summer job that barely covered your share of a 3-person apartment. A real one, direct deposit, every 2 weeks, with taxes already taken out, and a number at the bottom that felt, for the first time in your adult life, like actual ground under your feet. And the first thing that feeling told you was, you can finally breathe. So you did what that feeling told you to do. You upgraded. Not dramatically. Nothing you'd be embarrassed to explain, just a better apartment than the one you had before, because you earned it. A car that started reliably every morning, because you needed it for work, and the old one was becoming a liability. Groceries that didn't require cross-referencing 3 different store circulars on a Wednesday night. Clothes that fit properly, a gym membership, because you were working hard and taking care of yourself, felt like part of that. None of it felt like overspending. All of it felt like living. And then 3 years passed, and you looked up, and the math didn't work. You were making more than you ever had. More than your parents made when you were growing up. More than the version of you at 22 would have believed possible. And you had almost nothing set aside. Not nothing exactly. A small emergency fund that had been the same size for 2 years. A 401k you contributed to because HR mentioned it at orientation, and it seemed like the responsible thing. But nothing that felt like momentum. Nothing that felt like it was going somewhere. The paycheck came in. The paycheck went out. Life cost exactly as much as you made, every single month, with a reliability that would have been impressive if it wasn't so quietly terrifying. Here is what was actually happening, and why it kept happening, no matter how many times you told yourself next month would be different. There is a mechanic built into modern life that runs on a very simple logic. Your spending will always rise to meet your income, not because you are reckless, not because you are bad with money, because the moment your income goes up, the world around you immediately presents you with reasonable, justified, completely normal ways to spend the difference. The raise comes in April. By October, the raise is gone. Not wasted, not blown on anything you'd be ashamed of. Just absorbed, cleanly and completely, by a life that silently expanded to receive it. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it doesn't feel like inflation because every single step inside it felt earned. Here is what it costs you, not this month, not even this year, but compounded forward, across the decade you are currently living in. Every dollar that goes toward upgrading your life is a dollar that stops working for you permanently. It doesn't just disappear in the present, it disappears in the future too, because it never got the chance to grow. The $400 a month that went into a nicer apartment at 25, directed instead into a low-cost index fund, becomes something meaningfully different by the time you are 35. Not because of discipline, not because of sacrifice, because of time and compounding, running quietly in the background while you were busy living. The trap isn't about any one decision, it's about the direction of the drift. When spending rises in lockstep with income, year after year, the gap between what comes in and what stays never widens, and you stay exactly where you are, no matter how far you travel on paper. You met someone once at a work happy hour. Her name was Christine. Same company, different floor. She started the same year you did. Same salary band, same onboarding week, same parking garage on the 3rd floor. with the elevator that took too long. From the outside, you were running identical laps. Christine drove a 2015 Honda Civic she'd bought used for $11,000 cash during her last year of graduate school. There was a dent in the rear passenger door she had zero plans to fix. She brought lunch to work 4 days a week in a container she'd had since college. She lived in a one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood that wasn't exciting, wasn't trendy, and didn't have a rooftop. She went on one trip a year, planned 8 months in advance, and paid for it entirely before she got on the plane. She did not talk about any of this. Nobody asked. What Christine did, the Monday after her first real paycheck landed, was sit down with her HR portal and do 3 things. First, she contributed enough to her 401k to capture the full company match, 4% of her salary, matched dollar for dollar by the company. Free money buried in a benefits email that at least half the people on her floor deleted without reading. Second, she opened a Roth IRA and set up an automatic transfer of $200 2 days after every payday into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. Third, she opened a high-yield savings account, earning around 4.5%, and started building what she called her floor. Not an emergency fund with a vague target, a floor. A number below which she would not allow her savings to fall, and above which everything extra got redirected somewhere that compounded. That was it. No spreadsheet empire, no financial influencer she followed religiously, no complicated system she had to remember to maintain. 3 decisions, made once, automated, and left alone to run. Nothing announced that she had done something right. The Honda still had the dent. The lunch container still came out every morning. Life looked exactly the same from the outside. But something was happening underneath that nobody at the happy hour could see. You, during this same period, were doing what felt natural, what felt normal, what felt like the way people live when they are finally making real money after years of not making real money. You were not irresponsible. That is the important thing to understand. You were not making bad decisions. You were making invisible ones. The kind of decisions that feel like non-decisions because everyone around you is making the same ones, and the water you are all swimming in has no name and nobody mentions it. By the time you were 28, Christine had crossed $60,000 in combined savings and investments. You had $4,200 in a savings account and a 401k you hadn't looked at in 8 months. You were not behind because you were careless. You were behind because the game has a set of rules that nobody handed you, and you were playing by the rules you could see, instead of the ones that actually determine the outcome. The rules you couldn't see are not complicated. They are just never taught to the people who need them most. The first rule is that saving money is not the goal. Making money work while you sleep is the goal. A savings account earning bar 0.01% interest is not your money working. It is your money sitting. There is a difference, and the difference compounds for decades. The second rule is the order of operations. Most people save whatever is left after everything else. Whatever is left is almost always nothing. The move is to flip it. Future self gets paid first, automatically, before you touch a single dollar. Everything else works around that number, not the other way around. The third rule is that time is the only input in this equation you cannot buy back at any price. Every year you wait is a year the compounding does not run. At $25, $200 a month, invested in a low-cost index fund, earning a historical average of around 7% annually, becomes roughly $525,000 by the time you are 65. At 35, that same $200 a month, same return, same destination, becomes roughly $243,000. Same money, same discipline, a decade of difference in the start date, nearly $300,000 in outcome. The fourth rule is that the match is free money, and free money has no ethical argument against it. If your employer matches your 401k contributions up to a certain percentage, and you are not contributing at least that percentage, you are leaving a portion of your salary on the table every single pay period. Not declining a bonus, leaving it on the table. The fifth rule is that a Roth IRA is one of the few legal structures in existence where your money grows completely tax-free. You put in after-tax dollars, the investments grow for decades, and when you withdraw in retirement, you owe nothing. Not a small nothing, an actually meaningful nothing, on potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in gains. None of this is secret. None of this requires a financial advisor charging you 1% of your portfolio per year to explain it. It just never gets taught. Not in school, not in the onboarding packet at work, not by anyone with a financial incentive to tell you the simple version for free. You figured some of this out slowly, not all at once, not from a single book or a single conversation. More like a gradual shift in how you saw the numbers, a reframe that happened quietly, over months, until one day you looked at a $4,200 savings account balance and felt something you hadn't expected to feel about it. Embarrassed is not quite the word. Awake is closer. You sat down on a Sunday afternoon with your laptop and your bank app and your HR portal, and you stayed there for 2 hours. You figured out your actual take-home number. You calculated what 20% of that looked like, moved on payday, before you touched anything else. You went back into your 401k settings and adjusted your contribution to capture the full company match, which turned out to be money you had been leaving behind for 2 years without realizing it. You opened a Roth IRA that afternoon, set up a transfer for the following payday, then closed the laptop and made dinner. Nothing happened after that. That is the part that is hardest to describe. The transfer ran 2 days after your next paycheck, then the one after that. The 401k adjusted. The Roth IRA received its first contribution. Life continued, being exactly what life was. Same commute, same apartment, same Sunday afternoons, same co-workers who were talking about a weekend trip you declined because you ran the numbers and decided it wasn't the right month for it. Nobody noticed the transfer. Nobody noticed the 401k adjustment. Nobody noticed anything, because nothing visible changed. 18 months in, you are at a birthday dinner. The conversation moves the way it always moves at birthday dinners in your late 20s. Who bought a condo? Who got promoted? Who is going to Portugal in the spring? You say you are doing well. Someone asks where you went for New Year's. You say you stayed in. Their face makes the calculation. Stayed in is a polite way of saying not much to report. They nod and turn to someone else. There is no version of, I have been quietly maxing my Roth IRA and capturing my full 401k match and building a high-yield savings floor that lands the way Portugal lands. You know this. You go home feeling something specific that does not have a clean name. Not failure, not even close to failure, but the particular smallness that comes from moving in a direction nobody around you can see, for a long time, with no external confirmation that you are going anywhere. This is the part nobody prepares you for. The middle is longer than it looks from the outside, and it is quiet in a way that is genuinely difficult to sit with, when the entire visible world around you keeps rewarding the people making the visible moves. And then the test arrives. Not a dramatic one, not a single moment of crisis with a clear before and after. Just an ordinary Tuesday phone call from your landlord, telling you they are not renewing your lease. They are selling the building. You have 60 days. You have been here before, in a different version. In your early 20s, a version of this same Tuesday would have meant 3 weeks of low-grade panic. A frantic search for anything you could afford immediately. A decision made under pressure that you would spend the next year regretting. A credit card balance that started as a bridge and quietly became a fixture. This Tuesday is different. You open your accounts, you look at the floor you built, you sit with it for a moment. Then you call 2 apartments you had bookmarked 6 months ago, out of curiosity, before you ever needed them. You schedule showings for Thursday and Friday. You take a day to look without urgency. You choose the one that makes sense. You put down the deposit from savings without touching your investment accounts, without pausing the automatic transfers, without doing anything except writing a check from the floor you built for exactly this kind of moment. The crisis that would have consumed 3 weeks of your life consumed about 4 days. And the portfolio kept compounding through all 4 of them. without being consulted. The Monday you cross $100,000, you are sitting at the same kitchen table, same shirt, same coffee. You open the app, you look at the number, $100,000. You close it and sit there for a moment, and the kitchen is quiet, and nobody calls, and the street outside is completely ordinary, and the world does not reorganize itself around what just happened in your account. But here is what is different from every version of you that came before this one. You are not waiting for the world to acknowledge it. You stop needing it to. Because somewhere in the last few years, between the Sunday afternoon with the laptop and the HR portal and the birthday dinner where you said you stayed in for New Year's and the Tuesday that would have been a crisis but wasn't, you stopped building for the scoreboard other people could see. You started building the floor. And the floor is not a number. The floor is the thing the number makes possible. It is the Tuesday you don't panic. It is the job offer you can afford to think about for 3 weeks before accepting. It is the parent who gets sick 2 states away, and you book the next flight, not the cheapest one, without checking your balance first. It is the choice that used to cost you something it no longer costs you. That is what $100,000 actually is, not a destination, not a flex, not something you announce at a birthday dinner or post about, or expect anyone to respond to with the weight it deserves. It is a door that opens inward, quietly, without an audience. Christine crossed $100,000 18 months before you did. You found out by accident, in a conversation about something else entirely. She mentioned it the way people mention something they filed away a while ago and almost forgot to bring up. You asked her how it felt. She thought about it for a second. She said it felt like nothing changed, and everything changed at the same time. Like the number wasn't the thing. The number was just the proof that the thing was working. You didn't fully understand what she meant until the Tuesday your landlord called, and then you understood completely. Here is what the next step looks like. Because $100,000 is not the finish line. It is the first real starting line. Once you have the floor starts working. The compounding that has been building quietly now has real weight behind it. The gap between what your money makes and what you put in starts to close, and then crosses. The month your portfolio generates more in returns than you contributed is a different kind of Monday morning. Not louder, actually quieter, but different. What you do now is stay in the game. Keep the transfers running. Do not interrupt the compounding for something visible. Do not let the $100,000 become the permission slip to expand the lifestyle to meet it, because that is exactly what it will try to become, and that is exactly how the trap resets. Treat the milestone the way Christine treated every milestone before it. Note it. Appreciate it. File it away, and go back to the Tuesday transfers, because the people who end up somewhere genuinely different did not do something dramatic at $100,000. They did the same quiet thing at $100,000 that they did at $2,000. They kept going, without an audience, without a celebration that cost them the compounding, without waiting for the world to clap. The world is not going to clap. That was never part of the deal. The deal was always just this: make the invisible decision, one payday at a time, for long enough that the math becomes undeniable, and then keep making it after that. If you are somewhere at the beginning of that, somewhere between the first real paycheck and the first real floor, here is what I want you to do this week. Open your HR portal. Find the 401k match. Capture it if you are not already capturing it. Open a Roth IRA if you do not have one. Set up one automatic transfer for the day after your next payday. One. Not a system, not a spreadsheet. One transfer. Then close the laptop and go make dinner. Nothing will announce itself. Nothing will confirm you did the right thing. Life will continue being exactly what life is, but something will have changed underneath it, quietly, the way the only things that actually last ever change. See you in the next one.